We're live. Are we live? Excellent.
I think we're live.
Right.
Amazing.
Hello, people on YouTube. Welcome to A Week in Watches Live. As you can tell, if you've been a viewer of A Week in Watches, this is the first time we're doing it live, and it's a bit of an experiment, which is why we didn't announce that we're doing this live. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
You know,
in real time, because it's live.
In real time, it's live, and you can let us know if it's going well or poorly or anything in between.
Yeah.
But the goal here, I think, is to bring Week in Watches back up to a little bit more of a regular cadence. We'd gone from 1 week to 2 weeks to a month. The month didn't quite feel right, I have to be honest.
It's hard to justify it as a Week in Watches when it's monthly.
Yeah.
So it's, And we experimented with this format during Watches and Wonders.
Yes.
We had a team here broadcasting, and people can call in, and it's. I think it's a good opportunity to kind of bring back a Week in Watches in a different guise and a new format.
A dynamic format,
Yeah.
not just me on the screen, also a little bit of a co-host sort of a situation here, some natural banter, and yeah, it should be fun. So since it's been several weeks since the last show, we do have a lot of content sort of lined up here.
Lots of new watches to talk about.
Lots of new watches to talk about, lots of cool indie stuff. Actually, I feel like mostly indie stuff this time around, with a few big brands mixed in there. But before we do that, well, two things. One, let's kick this off with a. I haven't even introduced you yet, Zach.
Our names are on the screen.
That's
I
true.
believe, or they should be. If our producer is, has done his job,
yeah,
then our name should be up there. But yeah,
so no introduction, no.
Yeah,
so
I'm Zach. It's live, folks.
It's live. Yeah. Please go ahead.
I'm Zach Kazan, managing editor at Worn and Wound,
and I'm Zach Weiss, co-founder of Worn and Wound, and as you already know, this is A Week in Watches Live.
Yeah,
we're working out the kinks. All right, let's start with a wrist check.
Wrist check. I'm wearing my Ming Uni today.
Excellent.
We have a Ming video that we're shooting a little bit later today. Once we stop this live broadcast, we'll be doing a recorded broadcast, which will be much better rehearsed probably than this one. But lots of Mings.
Don't be so sure.
In the works for today. So.
Yeah, but you're not diving today.
Not today, although it is raining pretty hard outside, so appropriate.
It's always good to have a waterproof watch
for sure.
For rain. I have on my Fairlander chronograph. This one just called out to me from the watch box this morning. Really fantastic watch.
That's
always really enjoy wearing it when I break it out. One of their best. And you know what? There's a new fair that we might.
There is a fair to talk about today. Yeah.
Yeah. So look at that. That's maybe why it stood out.
Yeah.
As is tradition, there is a sponsor for this episode, and that is the Wind Up Watch Shop. So we got all sorts of excellent products in the Wind Up Watch Shop, from watches to EDC to straps. Actually, just today we added Formex to the store, which is really exciting, and they have a brand new field watch out. So you can head to windupwatchshop.com to check that out. If you're in the New York or tri-state area or whatever, you can come by the Wind Up Watch Shop showroom at our Brooklyn office that is open from Wednesday to Friday. But head to windupwatchshop.com for hours and more specifics about that. And yeah, let's kick it off.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
What's
awesome.
first on the agenda here?
First on the agenda is Wind Up San Francisco.
Of course, yeah.
So this was already a few weeks ago, but we always cover the most recent Wind Up on A Week in Watches, and this year's San Francisco Fair was a massive success, I would like to say. You can see some images now going across the screen, and Zach, how was the fair for you? What stood out to you?
It was great. I think it's hard to pick a favorite fair. They all have their own unique character and qualities, but I really love the venue of the San Francisco Wind Up Fair. It's just really beautiful. There's so much natural light, which is so important, obviously, when you're looking at watches, and it's just this great, spacious, beautiful place. And the city of San Francisco is just awesome, and I love being there.
Yeah.
So it's a really great show. Lots of great watches as always. Christopher Ford Loco, I think, was kind of maybe the hit of the show.
I was going to ask. So you hadn't seen the Loco before?
I had seen it.
Oh, you had?
Yeah. I saw it in. I saw it in England during British Watchmakers Day. I got a little preview of it. But yeah, incredibly impressive watch, and it was very cool to see people's reactions to it, because this is the first big public event, I think, where a lot of people had access to that watch. So yeah, really exciting. Apparently they sold out of their first run, which is a good sign. yeah, very, very cool watch. And that booth is just always mobbed at every wind
Yeah,
regardless.
yeah. Christopher Ward, really, they know how to put on a show. I feel like they always release something pretty close to a wind-up, or even sort of for wind-up. Like they did those like sorbet or ice cream models the other year in Chicago, which were very cool. And obviously this year, the Loco is the big story for the company, probably for the year. But there are new releases also. We got to show their documentary as well. Did some airings of that, which
you appear in.
Which I appear in, which is a little awkward. And some people were like, "Oh yeah, you were in that."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah." But yeah, I was actually really excited to see the watch again too, because it'd been a few weeks and just want to refresh my memory. Really like that white one. Really kind of.
Yeah, the white one's nice. They're all nice. They all have this kind of like loud quality to them. They're flashy in a way that I think people are drawn to. Because it's a watch that is meant to, I think, make a statement about the brand and about what's possible in, at this sort of price range in terms of interesting watchmaking. So
yeah, no, certainly. Any other? Oh man, we're live, aren't we? We usually would have edited that out. Anyway, any other brands or watches or anything else stand out to you?
It was really cool to see the new porcelain dial. Anardane.
Oh yeah.
I like that a lot. I thought that was a really beautiful watch. There was a lot of good stuff. I thought Echo Nutra had some cool stuff. We saw they had the Rivanera was there, which is a favorite of mine, which is not a new watch, but just always cool.
Always great to see that watch.
They had some cool stuff. Always a really good selection of watches at Wind Up. What about you? What stood out on your end?
Well, I just jumped to the website to remind myself the name, but the Fears Arnos.
Oh
which
yeah.
I had got to see in Geneva on the wrist of Nicholas, but I didn't really, once again, the daylight and everything, getting to see it in the venue. Those are just so fantastic. I feel like every time I put on a rectangular watch, I realize I really want one, but then I don't think about it until I try one on again. You know what I mean? The Rivanera also obviously being another example of that. But there's just something about the design of that Arnos. It's really, I don't know, special, like the use of the CNC guilloche, the small circular dial. It's, Fears is like, where did that come from? Like Fears is doing something completely out of left field there, which is very exciting.
It'll be very exciting, I think, to see where Nicholas and his team take the Arnos in future iterations of that watch. Obviously, they're not going to just let it sit with this one variant, for its entire lifespan. They'll continue to kind of like introduce, I would imagine, new colors and textures and materials and things, just like they have with their other collections. So very exciting to see kind of what they come up with for the Arnos collection.
Yeah, and there's actually another Fears which really stood out to me, and that was the Topper edition with the confetti dial. I don't know if you've seen this one online or anywhere, but like they made with Topper a collaborate. It's not a limited edition; it's just a collaboration. And I forget what the cause is, but this actually goes to raise money. And the dial was designed by the son of one of the owners of the place. But it just got this super cool dial. With like literally, I mean, you're looking at it now, so it's got like confetti all over it. It's quite literal. It's hard to explain why it's so fun, but it it's almost like the Rolex Celebration dial or something.
Yeah,
like, there's something unexpected and quirky, but it really works.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It has like a lot more texture to it than I would have expected. Like the way that they did this like confetti effect is very convincing. It's a cool watch.
Yeah, it's also I think the only date-free version of this Fears, the Redcliffe.
I think you might be right.
Yeah, which is cool. Yeah. So anyway, go check that one out. And yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else about Wind Up. I'll reiterate. So this is actually my first time at the San Francisco Fair at this venue. I've been to many San Francisco Wind Ups, but I couldn't go last year. And yeah, this venue really is. It is sort of hard to express how perfect it is for this type of event.
Right on the water. It's like it's just you get like every element of like the San Francisco weather like at the venue, and
it's a beautiful park. I mean, it's sort of in a park, but it's like I get to like take nice walks there, which is very nice.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
Truly lovely. Okay, I think we've got that covered.
Yeah, I think so.
Let's move on to the first watch release we're going to cover. And so that is the Naohita & Co. 2025 releases.
Yeah.
Of which there are a few, but There's a standout, of course.
The perpetual calendar is their big release this year. So they release watches on an annual basis and make them available to purchase through an allocation system on an annual basis. And when they do that, they always have media in to the Armory location in New York City to kind of like get a look at the watches and photograph them and go hands-on. And so we had an opportunity to do that just yesterday, and just a really fantastic experience. Like these are watches that I think you really have to handle to get a clear sense of, because there's just so much detail. The material is so important. The winding feel of these watches is so important. Seeing the hand engraved elements on the dial is really important. Like nothing that you can really capture in a photograph, even though you took some great photographs yesterday. But it's so important to like see it in person. So very lucky and pleased that we were able to do that yesterday.
Yeah, it's always a joy getting to see these watches. They really are ones that have like an X factor to them that is only like understandable in hand, and that's unfortunate because it's very hard to see these in person. Yeah. We're lucky because we're here and we get to do this annual viewing, and then I think the Armory has if you're in the city, you can go view the Armory, probably also in Hong Kong at the other Armory spaces. But yeah, they're 37 millimeters in diameter mostly. There's also a rectangular model, but the round ones are 37 millimeters in diameter. They're all around 10 millimeters thick. They have German silver or sterling silver dials. So actually the new perpetual calendar, the 6A, is a sterling silver dial, which is different. They're usually German silver. Yep. German silver is not actually silver, sort of confusing.
It's like a nickel alloy, basically, right?
Yeah, like a nickel alloy, and it has this warm tone to it. But they have they just have this real solidity to them. That's where they have a nice heft to them, and whatever charm the hand engraving brings is I don't know, it does something. It does something. These really feel like little pieces of art.
Mean, they're all quite literally like handmade. They're hand engraved. They're hand inked, like in the engraved portions, and they change they adjust the movement so that it has like a very specific winding feel. So it feels like a vintage watch, and like all these little tiny little details that kind of add up to a very special thing on the wrist. Yeah, they're just beautiful.
So now you can actually see this is it on my wrist. Fit perfectly. I could have walked away with that one.
You could have.
A mere $57,000 plus an allotment system.
Yeah.
So, and they're going to make 2 or 3 of those this year or something.
Yeah. Very low production. I think they make 20 watches a year total or something like that. Like a very small number of watches.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's they're very very rare watches. Yeah. Certainly. But yeah, so the 6A, and that's the movement in this one was co-developed with Hebring and Dubois de Pras, which is very cool. Love Hebring. So that's just a fantastic development too, that they're working outside of just themselves. And I love this network of indie brands, and I feel like Hebring is actually sort of becoming a hub for them, because you have Kadoki and Benzinger and now Naohita working with them, which is really cool. And you can sort of see here some of the engraving detail, the size of those subdials, like those fine lines are hair thin.
Yep.
And those are each hand engraved. The engraver was actually there, really nice dude.
Yep.
And then hand inked.
And
it's just incredible.
The detail that they pointed out that I thought was really impressive too is the Roman numeral 3 there and the 9 on the opposite side. You can see just a sliver there.
Yeah.
That's kind of escaping the overlap of the subdial, just to kind of maintain some consistency, and balance in the dial. I thought that was just a really cool, another very small detail, that very few other brands would think of, to have that little tiny sliver, which again, of course, is hand engraved and hand inked. Yeah,
for sure. Just actually taking a step back, what do you think about the fact that they went, so they had time only, they have a moon phase, and they go all the way to the perpetual?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty bold swing, I think, on their part, but it's also, it makes a certain amount of sense just because of the watches that I think this brand is trying to evoke from the 1950s and 60s. Obviously, these are really in conversation with classic Patek Philippe references, and that means complicated watches, to a large extent. So I think it does make sense that they came out with a perpetual calendar and one in steel too, which I think is important.
So. Which already, has it's at the top of their price point at 57,300, which is in line with actually the gold move phase that we just scrolled past. So, you can see the solid gold watch and the steel same price, which I think says a lot about that movement.
Did you have a favorite among the watches you saw yesterday? Because we saw basically the entire collection from the first year they were making watches. So what do you have?
I mean, the Type 3 series with the moon phase are just they're just incredible. I don't know, and like all three of them, the steel. So there's a steel one, which was the first one, and there's steel with a rose gold bezel, and then the full gold one. And both the ones with the gold have lapis lazuli moon phases on them with a gold moon face there, hand carved, and there's just something with the Roman numeral shape on this, the quirkiness of the moon phase. It's just incredible. And then naturally in gold there was something about it, just
the gold
incredible.
Moon phase for me is probably the standout. Like that's the one that like I think feels best on the wrist. It's just like so pleasingly hefty. And Mark told us yesterday that they have a secret moon. So obviously there's two moons on the disc, and one is sort of like the standard sort of like smiling moon, and the other is like a secret moon that they make in collaboration with the collector. Whoever gets the allocation, it can have any expression that they want. So I thought that was again, just so many little details that make these watches special.
So any owners of this, please show us your moons.
No,
I don't know. Fantastic. I'm looking forward to next year. I don't know, like the base model, the one I think starts around, we heard around 18K or something in steel. That's a watch I'd absolutely love to have in my collection at some point.
One day.
Yes.
Want to move on to Tudor?
Let's do that. Let's do that.
So Tudor has had a couple of like pretty notable releases in carbon fiber over the course of the last few weeks, including this limited edition for the F1 racing team, the Racing Bulls, I think is their.
It's the Visa Cash app.
Visa Cash App Racing Bulls is the F1 team. So this is a Black Bay chronograph in carbon fiber. They had done a handful of carbon fiber watches previously to this, always in the Pelagos family, specifically the FXD family. And so I thought it was interesting that they brought carbon to the Black Bay line, which is kind of their more traditional vintage inspired line of divers. It's just sort of, I think, probably inevitable that would happen. But
you think so?
I do. I do think so, because I think that they're leaning into this niche of carbon watches for their athletic partnerships, and the other carbon watch that we can talk about is one that they released in partnership with their bicycling team for the Giro d'Italia. So you're going to run out eventually. You got to expand to other collections.
I guess I would have rather. Well, I think it's very weird conceptually, because the Black Bay was the vintage line, and then the Pelagos was the technical line. So you have titanium, you have carbon, and it made sense. And then Pelagos just stays, and then Black Bay just stays steel. So going to carbon fiber, skipping titanium, let's say, which is maybe a more logical step, at least to me, it's just surprising. And so that makes this watch sort of sit in a weird space now. It's very similar to the Pelagos FXD, which, now we can, I don't know if you want to jump over to that other tab, which they also released a couple weeks before. So even those two angles, right? It's like, it's the same movement. It's very similar case. It's not identical, but I don't know. I was just a little surprised by the overlap there.
Yeah. I guess the way I see it is they're just like I said, they're leaning into these athletic partnerships. Every time there's an opportunity, it seems like to release a watch that's during like a notable period, and with one of these athletic teams that they partner with, it seems like they're just going to have a watch available. Like these watches literally came out a week apart. So that is. That's pretty unusual for a big brand to have like two kind of splashy releases like this in such quick succession, particularly after Watches and Wonders, which is not too long ago.
I think it was because they actually had a timer in their booth, and it was like 31 days until the next watch. So
Yeah.
Which
Coming
they
fast and
projected.
furious.
It was all in blue. It was next to all the F1 stuff. We all could have
Yeah.
guessed what it was going to
Yeah.
be. But yeah, so which do you prefer out of these two?
I think I probably prefer the pink one probably because I'm not a fan. I'm not a Black Bay chronograph fan. I think I think I prefer the FXD chronograph to the Black Bay chronograph because the Black Bay chronograph already, even the steel version is kind of anachronistic. Like I think a dive chronograph is just not, it's just a little strange. So a little twist on it with the FXD, I think, is more interesting to me.
Pelagos still dive watch.
Of course, yeah,
yes.
but it's the FXD is sort of like its own kind of like tactical thing. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, there's one major flaw to me on the Black Bay chronographs in general, and that's screw down pushers.
Yeah, you're not a fan of the screw down pushers.
Screw down pushers.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of rules it out to me.
Yeah.
Just like actually, since while we're looking at this one is limited to 2,025 units for the year.
For the year, okay.
For the year.
So next year they'll have another.
They'll add one more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's priced at $7,575.
Yeah. That's a lot of money.
It's a step up.
Yeah.
And then the Pelagos FXD Chrono Pink, that's limited to only 300 pieces. And unless I got the price wrong, it's 5,600. So there's a little jump there.
Yeah, when the Black Bay chronograph, when the Red Bull, the Visa Cash App Red Bull watch, very tricky. There was a lot of discussion about the price of that watch. Like people immediately kind of commented on the price, thinking it was exorbitant. I think F1 as a sport has a reputation for like very expensive like souvenir. Like you hear stories about people spending like hundreds of dollars for like a hat or a T-shirt or something at a F1 race. So I have a sense maybe that folks who are in the market for something that's like really tied into F1 are used to paying a tax on their F1 product.
F1 tax.
F1 tax. Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to another very reasonably priced watch. No, just no. These are super cool. So MB&F has launched a new line of watches called the SP1. We got some hands-on time with these in Geneva, and actually these photos you're seeing are shot by Kat Shoulders, so really fantastic photos by her. So these are radically different from other MB&Fs. You want to just walk us through these?
Yeah, so this is an entirely new collection for MB&F. Previously, they had the Legacy machine, which is sort of inspired by classical watchmaking. The Max's kind of like twist on that, and then the horological machines are like the really true avant-garde. So that's where you see watches that are like shaped like rockets and shaped like animals, and so it's this is sort of like a midway point, I think. SP stands for Special Projects. This is a watch that Max originally started designing many years ago. I think the 2017, 2018, something like that. And he didn't really have the right collection for it. It doesn't really neatly fit in to either the Legacy machine and certainly not in the horological machine collection. So for the 20th anniversary of the brand, they've launched this new Special Projects collection, which I imagine over time could include other sort of like discarded projects that are brought back in some way,
pile. Yeah, no.
or maybe just kind of like more approachable, wearable MB&Fs. This is maybe their smallest watch is 38 millimeters, and it's I think like 12 thick. Millimeters thick.
Yeah.
So it's very wearable. It kind of like looks and feels like a real watch. Some of their watches really kind of break the idea of what a watch can be. And I think you look at this, even with the unusual kind of like like three circular kind of elements on the dial, like it still kind of registers as a watch immediately. And it's just like beautifully made. Like it's really cool to see these like floating. So you have the balance, the barrel, and the dial kind of like as this triptych sort of like floating in the center of the watch, and the movement is underneath, kind of connecting all three of these things. And it's just like it's a very cool sort of like eerily symmetrical like how they do that sort of presentation. I liked it a lot when we saw it in Geneva.
Yeah. No, these were really, surprising. It was actually funny because we were sitting and like sort of close to the window, and they were like, we're going to show you something. We got to like kind of protect the table.
They were
a
very protective of the keeping these watches a secret. They did not want these to leak.
Yeah, no leaks with these and it's at a glance you can tell this is not your normal MB&F. It wasn't a new color of something or another like even if the legacy machine they can do another one but it has a similar case or something. So this is radically different. Actually proportionally very similar to the Mad 2, which is interesting. And notably, they have the same designer, so they're both Eric Giroux. And so they both have this kind of design where the lugs come up through the case back, and then you have this sort of like soft, rounded stone sort of top and bottom crystal. And so they have these nice ergonomic qualities to them. And just shocking almost to see the simplicity of it. And I think the part of the concept of this one was like, oh, what if MB&F had made a dress watch in the 50s, 60s, so you have those mid-century sort of aesthetics, which you can see, I think, mostly on that sub-dial there, the time dial. Whereas, the legacy machines go all the way back, right? Those are more inspired by Brigade era sort of watches. I know, just really remarkable. Something that's really funny, though, about these designs, and it was like the first comment on my Instagram post was like, wow, your skin looks really good through the watch. And I think there was some sarcasm there. But like when you have these sort of completely open watches, you've kind of, and I mean, this is, not just this MB&F, I think this is all designs like these really skeletonized watches. Like you kind of have to think about how like the skin plays into the design, which is very hard to do, I imagine. So I don't know. It's really interesting. I mean, logically, I think you have to get really cool tattoos. Right.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an option. Yeah. I saw a lot of I saw similar comments. About like not wanting to see arm hair and things like that, like through the watch. And I don't know, like I don't really think about that. Like I'm not in the market for a watch at this price point. But I have to think like I would probably that probably wouldn't be a consideration. For me, honestly. Like,
no.
I would just be happy to like own such a special watch that's like so cool. And when I look at it, I don't think I'd be noticing the like the arm hair or whatever.
Yeah, it's forest for the trees kind of a situation.
Yeah, it's just just an amazing watch that you'd be like, anyone would be like proud to own and wear it. So
no, for sure. Yeah, so those were really exceptional. And just by the way, the pricing on those is $76,000 for the gold version and $82,000 for the platinum.
Yeah. Like you said, very reasonably priced.
Well, I think that's less than some.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, this is a watch that's a lot like the MB&F SP1. This is the Swatch Scoob Aqua. Which
maybe the hit of the summer.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So Devin Pennypacker, our media manager, owns one of these watches, the one that is kind of like tennis ball colored that you see on the screen there. And I had a chance to try it on just yesterday, and pretty fun, I have to say.
Yeah.
These are Swatch dive watches, very colorful, transparent. They have that kind of like jellyfish, aesthetic, which is something that Swatch has sort of like returned to, again and again through the years. Just a fun summer sports watch. I think these are about $150 or something like that. And
and they actually are water resistant.
They are water resistant.
Yeah.
Something I'll never miss an opportunity to say it when Swatch comes up in the conversation. Like they're much more than the Moon Swatch, and I think there's this is a good example of how there's something that's far more interesting and creative and fun than the Moon Swatch, just kind of like further back in the boutique if you go looking for it. This to me is like kind of what Swatch is all about, and why I've kind of always appreciated the brand for just sort of like fun, creative, and affordable watches.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and to your point about the Moon Swatch, I think there was a lot of like grievance over the price of those, as well as the Block Pond 50 Fathoms, even though they're still sub $500 watches. But at $150 with the build quality of these, like it's a fully plastic watch. It feels like a plastic watch, but it's also got cool like injection molded bioceramic sort of like bones around it. Like it is not a cheap feeling or looking watch. It's plastic. And at 150, I think it's actually quite a solid value, especially compared to those other ones. So it's it's kind of Swatch. It's just Swatch doing what Swatch is great at,
and what they've always done.
And it really, and to that point though, it really reminds me of the Swatch of the '90s, which like to me was the heyday of Swatch. It's when I had a lot of, I actually still have my Swatches from the 90s, most of them. They just had like a vibrancy, a funness to them that, I don't know, felt a little more experimental, you know? And these, particularly this yellow one, it's just, I don't know. It's like, it's just so fun. And at $150, it like feels...
Like it could be an impulse purchase, you know?
It certainly could. And they're big, but they don't wear poorly. Like, it's actually quite ergonomic.
They're 44 millimeters, but yeah, you're right. They have a very ergonomic case. They're plastic, so they're super light.
Yeah.
You know, the strap is nice. You know, sometimes that's a weak spot on Swatches, but I felt the strap, you know, was
or even inexpensive watches with rubber straps. The rubber tends to be like stiff or kind of unpleasant. It's not here. Yep. Do you have a favorite?
I think I think probably the blue one, and also like I like the yellow too. Okay. But yeah, I think I'd probably, if I were gonna throw down $150, which I might do that.
I'm actually thinking about getting one.
I think it'd probably be the blue one for me.
For me, I actually like the clear one a lot because it's like the most, of the jelly, and I just really like the primary color hands. I feel like there's almost like a hint of Silberstein in that, you know, for sure, intentionally or not. But it's a lot of fun. And then, well, you know, Devin already has the yellow, so.
Yeah, well, you can't
have
copy
two of that watch in the office.
Might as well get another one.
All right. Should we move along to the next topic?
Yeah.
What do we got up next? Oh, and back to a totally different realm, Masena Labs. So
why don't you take us through the Masena?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So Masena Lab, this is the new Noctograph, and this is a watch that's made in collaboration, and I was pronouncing his name wrong, but Raoul Page, I believe.
I think that's right.
Who is a lauded independent watchmaker, a member of the AHCI, does his own like line of very high-end watches. He's known for this regulator design. It's got a really like simplistic design to it, and then a very, you know, well, the movement's very classical, but it uses a detent escapement, which is very hard to pull off, and it's just really highbrow watchmaking kind of a thing. So they've worked together to create a movement that they've used a few times called the M660. And what this is, I think it's like designed by Raoul Page, at least in terms of the bridges and the finishing like application, and then it's you know, made by a third party. But as you can see, I mean, there's a lot of finishing on here. So there's Côte de Genève, there's really nice like micro perlage under the plates, there's hand polished anglage on it. So it's got that nice like high end movement look to it. And then they put them in these sort of traditional mid-century style watches, of which they've had a few, but this Noctograph is it's sort of a departure. It's maybe more of a sector dial design in a sense. It actually kind of reminds me a little bit of what Masena did with Louis Erard on his on that collaboration. So you have this beautiful blue vertically brushed surface. You have the leaf hands, two sort of sector tracks, and my favorite detail of this is how sunken these sub-seconds is. So it's like, if you see, there's like a kind of a depth shot there. It's really dropped down. It has like a cool left to it. I don't know. I thought we had a photo of that somewhere. Yeah, there you go. There you go. So yeah, I don't know. I just love the way that looks. It just, I don't know, everything has this machined quality to it. Like you can see
that also shows off the brushing on that blue section, which I think is really beautiful.
Yeah. Also how there's like a bevel. Everything is beveled. So that applied plate are on the outside, and then that blue, they kind of meet at an edge there. So just a lot of nice finishing techniques in this. It's just, I don't know, it's just like a striking watch, 38.5 millimeters, I think around 10 millimeters thick. Yeah. I don't know, what do you think of it?
I think it's beautiful. I think this is my favorite of the Masena Pai collaborations. For me, it's all about that brushed blue section. I think that's like kind of the killer like piece of this watch. They drew some criticism early on in their collaboration because of the way they were positioning the movement and Pai's involvement. But I think that's kind of like been cleared up, and you know, it's my understanding is it's made exactly in the way you said it is made, sort of like overseen by Pai, but it's not. He doesn't touch the movements. He's not like finishing them by hand, but it's it's his idea and design. So yeah, like with that sort of like in the rear view, I think we can just sort of like enjoy the watch. Also notable, this is the first watch released since Masena Lab became part of the Alternative Horological Alliance, along with Fears, the other new member, and then you've got, of course, Ming, Fleming, and Jan Shapiro as part of that part of that group. So congratulations to them on being part of the AHA.
The AHA group. Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see where that goes and what that develops into, and sort of like, what the benefit is for them. I think they're already doing some sort of like little group show somewhere overseas. So, maybe things like that. Just touching one before we move on. So 99 pieces of that Messena Lab at $8,875. I believe that they're currently for pre-order with a deposit of like $2,500, something like that. Delivery in the summer, which $8,875. That's an interesting price point. Sort of like a little bit no man's land. But then when you kind of look at it and start thinking about other things, like it feels like the right price potentially. I don't know. Like it's tough.
I mean, I think it's appropriately priced probably for that watch. Like we're not talking about like a movement with like a ton of hand work. I think a lot of it's probably machine finished. And
is it, you think?
I mean, I'm guessing here at that price point. I would imagine there's probably some, but not like entirely.
Yeah, I mean, there's also like the Côte de Genève and like Perlage. When you say it's hand done, it's not like you've seen this. It's like somebody putting it through a machine. Yeah. So it's sort of a mix,
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen one in person, so it's hard to say. But that is sort of sort of like in the middle of like two very like hot price points. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, loved it. Looking forward to more of those collabs.
Yeah.
All right.
Serica, next on our list. This is the 5303 PLD. This is a diver they've made in collaboration with the French Navy. Most folks watching are probably familiar with the 5303. It's their dive watch with the multi-scale bezel, very sort of like, tool-inspired, classic, dive watch proportions, twisted lugs, really nice watch. This is made specifically for the needs of French Navy ordnance disposal units. Yeah. So the bezel's designed to show you how much specifically how much time you have at a particular depth without making decompression stops.
Which is sort of the reverse of how it normally is, or some. I'm not sure how those decompression stopped bezels work. I've had it explained to me, but as somebody who's not a diver. But this, rather than telling you how long you have to wait, it's how long you can stay.
Yeah, which makes sense when you consider the job of someone who's like involved in that particular task. You don't want to be waiting around, on your way back up to the surface with something explosive, potentially. So you want to kind of like do your job and get out of there.
Yeah, get the hell out. Because I think they don't like clip wires; they detonate them.
Yeah, that's my understanding. So, the anti-magnetic qualities of this watch are highlighted because that's a hazard if you're working with explosives. Any sort of like magnetic charge can potentially detonate something in a way that you wouldn't want to detonate it. It'd be a controlled situation. Really kind of a cool collaboration. The bezel's in this beautiful blue shade, which is appropriate, I think, for
abyssal blue.
That's another cool watch from Serica. What do you think of this one?
I think it's extremely cool for a variety of reasons. I mean, the story is great, but I think just the fact that they're working with the French Navy is extremely cool for them. It's great to see an indie brand, a brand that is in the wheelhouse of Worn and Wound. Like several years ago would be, I don't know. I don't want to say not considered it for this kind of a thing, but maybe they wouldn't have. You go for the larger brands. Obviously, who else works with the French Navy? Tudor works with the French Navy. So, getting themselves kind of in that same conversation is really exciting. And this wasn't like, I don't think they just pitched them. Like the Navy came to them to develop something, and it's initially just for use by those like ordnance disposal teams, whatever you call them, and it's basically if there's sell those, and whatever's the remainder can get sold to the public. I think with maybe some adjustment to it, maybe the case back.
Yeah, I think they have the specific civilian version that is ultimately going to be sold to the public, and the Navy divers have one that's like unique
to them. But I don't know. It's just super cool.
Brew, metric manual aligned, next up in the queue here. So this is a pretty big release for Brew. They've released obviously a number of metrics and different guises over the last few years, but this is their first with a manually wound Swiss movement, which is a pretty big deal for a brand that has really kind of traded in in quartz and Japanese movements for the life of the brand. So this is like a notably more sort of like premium product in terms of the grade of movement for Brew. That's how they're positioning it. I haven't had a chance to see this one in person yet. Have you seen the manual lines yet?
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't actually have a chance in San Francisco to get by and see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think you summed it up well. It's nice to see Brew, which has done so well and expanded so much over the years and really grown. I think their customer base, they're one of the few brands I think really is not just a watch enthusiast brand, but a brand that's sort of more at large and kind of, they have a pop-up going right now actually in New York City, which I don't have the address of, but go to Brew's website if you happen to be in New York to see where that is. And so, them now introducing, I think, a Swiss watch to this audience, that's really cool, because now they're going to potentially start bringing people sort of more into that higher-end mechanical world as well.
Yeah.
But still very approachably priced. So, and
under $1,000.
Yeah, it's like $875, I think. And one of the great things about the Brew, just the metric, line, the finishing on these is really outstanding for the price point. Even for the quartz ones as well. I actually have the titanium one. I couldn't resist an all titanium with titanium bracelet watch like that for like $500. It was just, I had to see what it was like, and if you told me it was $1,000, I would have said, sure, that's an $1,000 watch. They have that quality to them. So, I don't know. Just very exciting development, as you put it. I think the blue one. So these are available in like limited batches. They're not limited editions. So he's not making a ton at a time. The blue one, I think, is already sold out on the site, with the gray one being available. But it'll come back, I imagine.
Yeah. Also, these are a little bit thinner than the automatic version of this watch. Which is
a Seiko, I think. Right?
Yes. Yeah. So that's an important point to keep in mind as well. It'll wear probably a little bit more elegantly, I would imagine.
Yes.
Seiko, right. So this is their new dive watch GMT, the SPB 519. This is basically a new colorway of a watch that they released about a year ago.
Yeah.
I think this is. I haven't seen this watch in person. We did cover it on the site, as you're seeing right now. Nice looking watch. The thing that strikes me about this watch and the way that it's sort of like been received is that. There was a time maybe like 5 or 6 years ago where these watches were like, this would have like stopped the internet.
Yes, 100%.
Any new release from Seiko kind of would have been like, like a very kind of like, hotly covered and people would have been talking about it. And like now they sort of fly under the radar. And I just think that speaks to like the level of quality of watches, like, in our community. And it's just kind of like interesting in its own right that it's, we can cover a Seiko on the website, and it's not necessarily going to be like, the most talked about watch of any particular.
100%. Yeah. No, it's funny. The not news aspect of it is sort of news. It's a I think a beautiful version of this watch. I really like the color combinations, white with the dark ceramic blue and the red hand. It's it's got a classic preppiness to it, perhaps, nice. Which is different. But yeah, I mean, it's just a new color. It's Seiko. We got to talk about Seiko when they come out with something new. I still feel that way as worn and wound, But these watches at $1,700, color GMT. There's just so much competition for them now. It's really, it's a little tough. There is a micro adjust on this clasp now, and I don't know if that is new for this exact reference or if that has been on this for a while, but like.
I think it might be. I think that might be new for this for this reference, if I'm not mistaken.
So that's cool. That's actually pretty big news unto itself. Yeah. But yeah, and that's Seiko at the moment. I'm sure we'll see more from them soon. Hopefully more than just new colorways, though. I'm literally waiting for a new Seiko to, sink my teeth into.
I'm always ready for like a really exciting Seiko. But they're in an iterative state, an iterative moment right now.
Right. I like this, like, I didn't plan this, but it's real, like, whiplash sort of situation here with price points,
This is the new Vacheron Constantin Grand Complication, Overseas Grand Complication, with an open work dial. So this is a kind of like the ultimate overseas. It has a minute repeater, a tourbillon, and a perpetual calendar. It's water resistant. You can swim in this watch theoretically. I'd wonder how many people who actually like wind up purchasing one will
don't
take advantage
use
of
the minute
that
repeater.
Yeah.
For the guy who gets this,
Yeah,
don't use the minute repeater underwater.
Yeah, so this is a style of watchmaking that we've seen a little bit more recently from these big from like big brands, the Holy Trinity brands, adding lots of complications into sportier watches. This is the most extreme example we've seen from Vacheron, but we've seen like similar watches from AP and Patek Philippe over the last few years. So Vacheron getting in on the act with the overseas at this point. I like this watch a lot. I think the open work dial really works for me. I think it's cool looking. It's a flex, on Vacheron's part. Like I think they're trying to position themselves as, kind of like the most serious like watchmaking brand among like the Holy Trinity. Their big release at Watches and Wonders was that, one-off watch that was the most complicated wristwatch ever made. With I don't remember off the top of my head how many complications it had, but
so many.
Yeah. So this is another kind of watch in that spirit. The movement is based on on like one of these like super movements that came out a while ago, and we were seeing like the trickle down effects of it here. So it just shows you like the importance of the watchmaking research that they're doing at Vacheron, and how these things kind of like evolve over time through different watches and different movements.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's well, one thing we left out, it's a titanium, most importantly. Yeah. It's a titanium.
Which is unusual for a minute repeater, because that's, not a metal that most people would say is like conducive to like a pleasing sound.
Yeah.
So.
It's interesting. This year, actually, at Watches and Wonders at the Longa presentation, so they launched a minute repeater this year as well, and it's made out of platinum. And they were sort of saying a similar thing, that people are like, oh, why make it out of platinum? Like, that's not the metal you make it out of. And their response was, it's not that any of them are better and worse, they're just different.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to tune them for the metal. So here, clearly, they chose titanium, making it more functional as an actual sport watch, which is interesting. Whereas, I think if you just showed me this at a glance, I'd be like, oh, yeah, that's platinum because of all the other things going on, and it's Vacheron.
Right.
But instead, it's not a precious metal, per se. It's everything else is precious. And yeah, it's also... a flex that they got all these complications into, not a huge movement either. Like, I don't think this isn't 15 millimeters thick. I don't think it's like...
I don't think so. It's pretty, it's a more wearable size for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, very cool. I think this might be... Is this our... No, we have one more after this. Look at that. Yeah. All right. Well, we talked about Fair wearing it. Can't skip the Fair. So the Fair Lissom? Yeah. I'll have to ask Paul. The Fair Lissom. New manual wound... sort of dressy watch from the brand with a sort of radial numeral dial on it, powered by, I believe, the La Jouperet D100. Yeah, the D100. So that's basically La Jouperet's remake of the Pizu 7001. A fantastic movement that is notably thin, which is how you get like... Well, it's actually in the Echo Neutro, once again. That's a very thin watch, but watches... I always think of the Stova Antia, which is like 6.5 millimeters thick. So you can make a really, really thin watch around this. And this one is also, it is fairly thin. It's 7.9. So that's actually fantastic. We haven't seen this one in person yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. It's an interesting design. It's conservative, but they've had some fun with color. Maybe not quite as like dramatic fun as Fair used to have, but I do think they intended this as a dress watch. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, that's what their marketing materials kind of like lead you down that path. It's definitely kind of conceived as a dress watch. I like this quite a bit. We'll have a review of this sometime in the relatively near future. I believe the watch is en route currently. So yeah, I'm excited to see this one in person and it's. I think it's cool. The colors look nice. The case is a cool size. That profile shot, on the website shows like the arching lugs, like the way that it kind of like has this kind of like deep curves. So I think that's a really, really cool look for this watch.
I like also that outline. Actually, I kind of need to see it in person. It's a funky detail. It actually reminds me of the detail on this watch, which is something I love on this watch. So the side has been sort of milled out and then blasted in, and it really... this isn't the thinnest watch. It's like around 13, but because of those lines, it kind of visually breaks it up. Yep. And so you already have a very thin watch, and then you're going to have this like additional decorative element, which could make it read even thinner potentially. I like that they think about case sides. They've done this before. They've had like kind of a ripple texture on case sides too. I feel like that's a lot of brands just ignore it. You know, kind of do what you do. So it's a cool feature from them. And yeah, that's like claw really hooked
really
down
sharply.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. So that watch is priced at $1,295. I believe that they're still in a pre-order. They might not be shipping quite yet, but
yeah, that's right.
But yeah, check those out at Fairer. Right, and on to the finale.
Squale, yeah. Squale Corallo, new old stock, 2008. So these watches are using new old stock components in a refurbished state.
Yeah.
I mean, there's vintage inspired, and then there's like actual vintage when you have access to it. So they've done this before.
They have done this before. Yeah,
it's cool idea.
Not this model though, and so it's a 1980s case, and I feel like when you look at this design, it's very weird. Yeah. And I like that they went for it. I think this is a really fun watch. It's also got funky dimensions. So it's 36.8 by 44 by 10.5. Yeah. And it's this little like bubble shape with a big rounded aluminum bezel on it. It's like 8 just chunky grips around the side. It's a very, very fun watch. I don't really know what to say. It's just like it's squally funkiness, embracing their funkiness. Yeah, you know?
I think it's I'd be interested to see one of these in person just to see like how they wear at this size, because like there's no real comp. For this size. So it's a cool idea. I like the idea of kind of like making use of these cases that had kind of been like discarded and finding like a way to breathe new life into them.
Yeah,
I think that's great.
I just love the idea of this like Squale factory or warehouse where they like open random drawers and they're like, look at that.
Cases.
We got a bunch of these, enough to make a line of watches. My favorite thing about this watch though is actually the typography. So the 20 atmospheres, the Squale shark, and then the Corallo that sort of follows the form of the shark. That's just really nicely done.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. Very cool. And so that watch is priced at $1,999. There's 3 colors. You see the sky blue now. Then there's also just blue and black. 100 pieces per color. I guess check out Squale. I believe Long Island Watch sells Squale as well. So check those out. And I think with that, we're going to call the first A Week in Watches live dead. No, over.
Well, we did it.
We did it. Yeah. Thank you for watching. Let us know what you thought of this. Is this a good format? Should we keep doing this, or should we never do it again?
We can have people call in, and we can make it more interactive than this. I think. I envision multiple correspondents from all over the world potentially.
Yes.
Calling in and doing
the global correspondence.
Exactly.
Yeah, it'll be very fun. Plus more interaction with the audience.
Yep.
World's our oyster, as they say. So,
anything's possible.
Right. Well, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.